Well met friends, and welcome to the first official part of my Drakan Order of the Flame playthrough. Hope you got a good kick out of the first part of this series. Just something that I was trying really, and just wanted to see if it'll gel or not. Basically, because this game is a really good example that encapsulates a lot about what my channel is about, decided to give it a little bit more oomph and, acknowledgement and respect. By giving a little sort of storytelling intro thing. So, like I said, I hope you liked it. Now, as I am speaking to you right now, this is our main menu, and you may notice it's quite small. Yeah, the reason for that is because this was a late 90s released game, although this was originally started development around about the mid-90s. This was during the time when video games back then, when their main platform was the PC, yeah, they had limitations, let's just say that. And usually when the game was released during that time period, the user interface for those games was more or less tied to the resolution of your monitor. So that's why you're seeing this a little bit small. Now, this actually could have been a lot smaller, because I am playing this on a 4K monitor. I mean, I suppose when this game came out originally, the monitors that we had to work with were essentially from 1280 by 720 pixels, or on the odd occasion 800 to 600. So this is obviously something that I'm trying to accommodate, shall we say. At the moment, you're currently seeing the game running at a 2560 by 1440p, and I'm running this in window mode simply because for some reason my recording software doesn't like to display the game, or this game specifically, on full screen. So for you guys, you'll actually see the whole game in its entirety, no cut-offs or whatever. For me, it's a little bit more tricky, given that I'm playing this on a 4K monitor and the resolution is just a little bit smaller. But trust me, if I was playing this at 4K, which I can, the UI would be so small you wouldn't be able to see anything. You wouldn't be able to see the main menu. You wouldn't even be able to see the text on the edges around each option, and even during gameplay, you wouldn't even be able to see my health bar, my inventory slots, or even the description of the weapons and items that I'd be currently carrying. It's absolutely messed up. So, I'm playing this at a, somewhat reasonable resolution. It looks nice. It doesn't look the best as it could be, but again, that's what we're going to have to deal with. Now, as you can see, we have a bunch of options in our main menu, and what I really like is something that you can hear right now, which is if I hover my cursor over to these certain gems over there describing the options, they make a little sound, and it's just such a lovely touch that the developers made with this game. I absolutely love it. Not many games, if any games, do it nowadays, let's face it. It's all just a simple list of options: new game, options, load game. That's it. So this is, they went above and beyond for this. You can tell during the gameplay, during the playthrough of this session, you'll see a lot of moments where you can tell the developers had a lot of passion and creativity for this game, because it's really done. It's done really well in parts that it deserves and should have needed to be. Let's just say that. Now, though I warn you, the story for the game is not that great. The lore is, on the other hand, is really good. It sounds really, just empowering. And that's again what I wanted to mention. But the story, however, the direction of the story and the pacing, yeah, it's gonna be out there. Let's just say the least. I mean, you'll be able to tell, basically, through your own subjective opinions about how you feel the story is. The writing for the story was a bit meh. The characters and their dialogue is actually hilarious. It's bad, but it's charming. So it's kind of that thing where you expect it to be there, but it's not necessarily needed to entice you to want to play the game. The game does a great job on that alone, with its gameplay and just overall fun for its hack and slash mechanics. So with that being said, let's stop waffling. I also want to give a quick mention to all of the key bindings and the buttons. Interestingly enough, for the moving commands, hopefully you can see this better than I can. Its original keyboard layout wasn't WASD, it was in fact EDSF, which is one space to the right of where the WASD keys are on your keyboard, or at least for the QWERTY keyboards. And I gotta say, that was interesting. Never known any PC games to actually do that. But this game, I'm not entirely sure if it was vanilla or the 10th anniversary edition, as I'm playing through the... that's what this version of the game is. Thank you to Erox Lair for the people who made it possible to play this game on modern systems. That this now has controller support. And all my graphics are turned up as high as they can be. As you can see there, the resolution 2560 by 1440. I've turned the brightness up completely because there's certain parts of the game that get seriously dark. Even the, look at that, even the arrows have nice little chimes to them. It's just so good. They really thought of everything when it comes to this, and it's so nice. The audio is... I'm going to keep it as is, to be honest. The music's not bad, but you know, you'll want to hear it at certain parts, let's face it. So there we are. And just as a quick note as well, there was a lot of things I left out intentionally on my intro part of the video game, and that's simply because Retro Death Reviews does a much better job in explaining everything about the game and in all its aspects, as I mentioned before. You know, he goes into a great deal about the politics surrounding the game, like what happened with the studios before and after the game's release. So it's all good. I highly recommend checking it out. And because this was the 10th anniversary edition, this game has full multiplayer. Now, it's not a dedicated server of multiplayer per se. It's actually, I think it works the way as peer-to-peer connection. So you're going to need to communicate with people who also have the game and have managed to get the game working in the aspects that you see now, to be able to play one-on-one death matches, or you know, other such matches on certain maps that you can play with against each other. And it's really fun. I highly recommend checking it out. I've never played multiplayer with this game per se, so I can't tell you firsthand how it is, but I've heard it's pretty good. So with that being said, let's start a new game. And we're going to go on not easy, not normal, not hard. We're going to be on too hard. I just love the chime, sorry. Yeah, we're going to play on too hard. And now, I want to point out, I'm by no means an expert on this game. I know it. I've played it a couple of times. I've completed it. The last time I completed it, I think, was on very hard. Or too hard. But I am no means an expert. I will be potentially dying a lot. It's old school style fantasy hard difficulty, okay? One where there's no invincibility frames and everything, you just need to simply get touched and it does a lot of damage to you. But with that being said, let's jump right in. You're the one's going to be getting a kick out of it, not me.
For a little brother, you're not half bad, Dylan. The way you found Adamar's dagger was clever indeed.
I hope his reward is better than that last book of Proverbs he gave me. There were a couple of funny ones, though. Like, your tongue weighs practically nothing, so how come you can't hold it? And, uh-oh.
Quick, get behind me.
Rin! Help me, Rin.
Adamar! My God, Adamar, what happened?
Despicable warthogs. They came to my house. They're using me as an example.
Don't move. Try to be still.
I saw Dylan, told him to run, but I think they caught him. Not sure.
If they even so much as touched him, I'll hunt them down and kill every one of those filthy beasts.
There's darkness afoot, Rin. This is only part of... I mean, only the Order of the Flame can confront it.
The Order? That's a myth, isn't it?
The book! You need the book! Locked in my house across the river. An orc stole the key. I last saw him entering the tavern. Find the key. Get the book. Enter the temple. Get the soul crystal. Find Erok. Erok.
Dylan? Dylan!
Okay, so right off the bat, the game thrusts us into the middle of a raid, and the protagonist for this video game is none other than Rin. Or, as I like to call her, medieval Lara Croft. Because, let's face it, the red hair, the big upper chest area, and even the way she moves, which I'll demonstrate in a bit. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Drakan in its entirety. I'm actually going to take care of this little grull, as it's called originally. The AI actually isn't too dumb in this game, so I wouldn't underestimate them. Right, well there you go. So there's a few things I need to mention just now. Did I just Ooh. Okay. Right, well. First of all, yeah, that intro, the dialogue and everything, I mean, you can draw your own conclusions to that, but basically, the way I present, the way I assume... it's really hard to explain, I'm afraid, so I'll do the best I can. But basically, when it comes to medieval fantasy, my correlation to that is... Excuse me, sorry, just need to clear my throat. The way I correlate that is most of the characters, or like practically all of the characters, unless there's a specific backstory to them, they always should have British accents to them, really. Again, that's just my experience, what I've gone through in most medieval fantasy style video games per se that involve this type of genre, I guess. Even though there's a lot of game characters. There's a lot of game characters out there that subsequently have an American accent, and it's been fine. You know, it's not too much of a problem. You know, especially when you consider the Diablo series to be part of the inspiration for this game as well. And I'm just going to mention something here. There's a light source here, so I'm going to show you what Rin's all about. So, what I've just done is brought up our inventory. Now, this doesn't have a pause function when you're in your inventory. This essentially is what it is. It forces Rin to do a sort of 180 turn that looks directly into the camera. And here is what our inventory looks like. So we've got a weapon here, which will also give us the name of the weapon, the damage it does, the durability, the speed, and the range. So it pretty much gives us the stats for all weapons and stats and items. Stats for weapons and items, let's say. And this is the weapon we actually start off with defaultly. Here we also have our life bar. That's in a very sort of spherical container. Again, very Diablo-esque. Inspired, as it were. But yeah, and like I said, the game's pacing in this, it literally just thrusts us right in the middle of a raid. And that's pretty much it. You just, you know, you're thrusted into it. You have no idea what's going on, apart from the synopsis that I mentioned in the first video, which we'll later get into that. And yeah, here's just brief examples about how Rin moves. She does the side steps, like rolling over like that, and she does a backflip as well. And there you have it. So yeah, that's pretty much very third-person lore-esque movements, really. Even the camera angle's kind of angled in the same way. But yeah, the game is charming. The dialogue is hilariously bad, in my opinion. I don't know why. For some reason, I just need to think of it as American, like American accents with fantasy medieval stuff. It to me, it just doesn't fit. But it's not to say it can't fit. Okay, that's obviously a preference thing talking about, and clearly it's a little bit charming. You know, this is definitely not the best example to use American accents for this type of game, but you know what? It's a charmer. It works. It's fine. I'm pretty sure it works a lot better in Diablo. I have no idea. I actually haven't played the game, sadly enough, even though that's kind of what my thing is about. But I will get to it. I will get to playing that game. But that's for another day. As I said, the story is not that important, and the dialogue is a little bit corny, but you know, take what you can get. It is literally 1999 in this era. And you can also tell as well that there's some weird texturing going on. Well, this is because I've added a HD texture pack, or texture mod pack, to the game. Now, obviously, it hasn't worked, because originally the game looks like this, what I'm standing on right now. It looks very blotchy, blurry, and that's what all the textures practically looked like before applying this texture pack. Even the rocks, they look like this originally. Whereas the texture pack covers, or is meant to cover, all parts of this grass to make it look more organic like this, and have the rocks look a lot more textured and a little bit more accurate like that. You know, so without this, you know, it's fine. It's not a big deal, but you know, for me anyway, because I've played the game too many times in the normal texture, in its normal textures, I've kind of wanted to just implement the texture pack anyway, just as it is. You'll see later on in the game that it does cover more things as we go along. This is just the texture pack is basically in beta, so you can't really, you know, argue with the fact that what we've been given is basically what we've got, and it's better to have some of it than none. That's all. That's how I see it. I'm going to be using saves a lot as well, as you can tell in the corner. The game doesn't pause. The only time you can pause the game is actually hitting escape. And do keep in mind in that, because going into your inventory, the game obviously doesn't pause, and you will have enemies charging at you whilst you're accessing your inventory. Pretty much basically what you've got in your hand, you need to make sure you're committed to taking on the enemy, essentially. So, again, the story... Sorry, I keep mentioning the story. The pacing of the story is a little bit out there. It's not explained what the hell's going on, why all of this has just happened, and they've just mentioned something about the Order. And... yeah, I mean... even her delivery about her brother being kidnapped, it was just kind of really cheesy. I don't know, it's like the game's trying to force you into building a, you know, emotional connection with your characters at this point. But you can tell how rushed it is. I mean, basically, what mainly focuses about the game is the gameplay and even the atmosphere. Really, those were clearly the priorities that the developers focused on. I mean, again, Surreal Software is an American-based company, studio company, so it makes sense why the voice actors were mostly American, and it's no different to Blizzard, I imagine. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're left with. And you know what? It's a really good method of playing. Now, you can actually, if you have a mouse wheel, you can actually scroll up and down to go through all of the weapons in your inventory. And the good thing about this is actually that whilst you have your weapon out, it doesn't actually take a slot into your current inventory as is. Whereas if I was to put it away, then it shows up again. The current blade that we've got in our inventory is Atimar's blade, the cleric or whatever that just died. And we've also got a weapon to find here we can pick up. Again, the interest points, or the points of interest on this game, like key items or items of interest, the game is super subtle. You are going to have a hard time finding them and seeing them. Right, but the destructible environments and even the ragdoll effect is what definitely sets this game above a lot of others. You know, it's pretty much like what The Witcher is now. You know, The Witcher 3. But even then, this game does a few things better than The Witcher 3. And one thing that I loved about The Witcher is the fact that you can disembody your enemies, because not that I'm, you know, morbid or anything, I want to see that. It's cool to see it. But it's accurately portrayed. Like, you're going against someone with just a pair of underwear on, of course you're going to be able to slice him in half. And that's pretty much what this game does. It gives you the means to...
The cellar existed.
Ah, well, there you go. So, every so often you will find, when you've gone to the right position and point of interest, Rin will spout out some exposition telling you you're on the right path. Which is technically the game's only source of confirmation that you're going in the right direction. Now... Okay. Alright, now, what you just saw me doing there was actually sneaking. Now, this game actually has a sneaking mechanic, which I think is pretty darn good. And we were just creeping up on this first enemy here, which is called the Grulls. Grull. These are the lowest, you know, the bottom of the form of the Dark Union's subordinates, as it were. And yeah, they're the weakest of the bunch, but in numbers they can be a bit of a problem. Now, yeah, like I just demonstrated, you hack it's proper hack and slash in every sense of the word. You hack enemies enough and they will just disembody. And from what you saw with the first enemy, I managed to chop off his arm, and that causes them to drop their weapon. And doing so will actually cause them to bleed out and then eventually die, which is really, really good. I thought that's a brilliant mechanic that, again, they don't even incorporate in games today. You know, not even the bleeding out mechanic. You know, even Witcher 3 doesn't do that. And again, with the whole disembodiment for Witcher 3 is kind of scripted. Whereas this game, you can just do it right off the bat whilst in mid-combat. And there's no lock-on feature as well, just FYI. So what you're dealing with is exactly how you've got to approach the fight. So, right, we're seeing a Grull trying to open up the gate, I guess, for his buddy in the next room. But I think he's going to get killed by a new enemy, or another enemy that's in the room next to me, which is a spider. Yeah, lovely spiders. So, in case you hadn't noticed, if you manage to get off a hit whilst the enemy hasn't noticed you, it'll do a significant amount of damage to them. And it's always good. It's always good habit to check all of the barrels around, because they will contain potions or other such items as well. And for anybody who has played this game, you may have...
I can jump on this.
Yes, Rin, you can jump on this, and we'll get to that later. This first part is, if you haven't obviously noticed, is me illustrating about what the mechanics are for the game and how to best describe them. And because this is a very obscure game, it's not very well known, I feel like I have to mention this whilst I'm playing it. But don't worry, because during the time, I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about all of this stuff, but don't worry, because once I've finished with this part, you know, it's just the description part of the Let's Play or playthrough. I'm going to be uploading a second part at the same time, so it'll actually involve me more. It'll involve more of me progressing through the game rather than explanations such. This is just so you get a good idea of what to expect. And trust me, even at 4K, none of this you'd be able to see. So, for anybody who's just noticed, I picked up a club. And for those who have played this game, you'll know that this is not actually a function that's meant to be incorporated in vanilla. This is actually a mod that came with the 10th anniversary edition that gives you the means to pick up and use the enemy's weapons. As you can see right now, it's the club that has 15 damage, but its durability is quite low. It's 30 out of 30. Its speed is medium and its range is short. And it's strange given that its range looks longer. You know, I should also point out that the game uses specific hit detection for your weapons, so depending on the range and, you know, the effectiveness of the weapon, as long as you hit the enemy, that's when you'll be able to do damage. If you're using a short enemy, you'll be going against bigger enemies as well. And if you're using this crappy little Atimar's blade thing for those big ones, well, let me tell you, you're gonna have a really hard time being able to land a hit, let alone just, you know, randomly swing your sword. But yeah, I've got incorporated a mod that allows you to use not all weapons, mind you, just some of them. But yeah, some of the weapons that you'll be able to pick up on certain enemies. And I figured I'd just... yeah, I thought, why not? It's a good idea. So here we are, we've just jumped up here, point of interest. As you can see, all the rock textures now look a lot better. I mean, can you imagine playing this in vanilla? Because down there, right where I'm looking at right now, that's how blotchy it looks, so... I figured I'd just save you all from that luck, as it were. So here we go, we've got ourselves a health potion. The health potions recover about 50% of your health, so that's what's good. Nothing else around here. And I think, as well, I'm going to split the part here. But as I mentioned, as soon as I finish with this, I'm going to start another part straight away. And I'll be uploading both of those parts relatively at the same time as each other. Like, literally between an hour. So, don't worry, we're going to finish off the part 1 here. And when we return, yeah, it won't be as if we left for that long. You'll just be right back in the action at the same time as me. So, thanks for watching, guys, and Godspeed.